Okay, so today in Algebra 2, we're looking at the second half of completing the square notes. And so today we're going to look at writing a quadratic equation in vertex form, graphing it, and then finding the maximum or minimum value. So remember to write in vertex form. This is where it looks like f of x. So f of x or y equals a parentheses x minus h quantity squared plus k. So that is our goal. So in order for it to look like that, we have to have a perfect square trinomial in order to factor. So I notice I have negative 2x squared plus 10x plus 1. It is not a perfect square trinomial, and they don't have anything all in common that I can take out. So I know that I need to complete the square, so I need to move my 1 to the other side. So I'm going to have y minus 1 equals negative 2x squared plus 10x. Whenever we complete the square, we don't ever want to complete the square when there's a number in front of x squared other than 1. So now we're looking for GCF. We want to get rid of that negative 2. Okay? So on this side, I see I could pull out a negative 2 out of everything, and I get x squared minus 5x. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my plus blank. Okay? On the other side, I have y minus 1 plus, okay, my blank, but here my blank, see over here, negative 2 is going to get multiplied by whatever was in there, so it has to be plus negative 2 times my blank. Okay. All right, so now I still find the number that's going to make the perfect square the same way. So it's that b divided by 2 squared, so negative 5 divided by 2, and square that gets me 25 fourths. You know me, I love fractions. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. So I'm adding 25 fourths to both sides. So on the left-hand side, I have y minus 1 plus I have to multiply negative 2 times the 25 fourths. So that gets me negative 50 fourths equals negative 2. I'm ready to factor this side. So that's just going to be x minus 5 halves quantity squared. So over here, y minus 1 plus negative 50 fourths. So remember that negative 1 is really the same thing as negative 4 over 4 to get a common denominator. So then I have y minus 54 fourths equals negative 2 parentheses x minus 5 halves quantity squared. Get y by itself. So y equals negative 2 x minus 5 halves quantity squared plus 54 fourths. That is now in vertex form, so now I see that my vertex is 5 halves, 54 fourths. Since we're going to have to graph this if we don't like fractions, because it's hard for us to see what number that is, we can go ahead and change it to a decimal now. So remember that 5 halves is really just 2.5. 54 fourths, if we change that to a decimal, that is 13.5. I want to graph it, which means I need an XY table. So I'm going to make my XY table. Remember, I put my vertex in the middle, so 2.5, 13.5. Pick two numbers, okay, one on both sides of my vertex, the same distance apart so that they're symmetric. Anytime you can pick 0, pick 0. So I'm going to pick 0 for my smaller number. Okay. If I plug 0 into my original equation, it takes everything away except the 1, so it's 1. I went from 2.5 to 0, I went 2.5 spaces. So go 2.5 spaces the opposite direction, so 2.5 plus 2.5 puts me at 5. So at 5 I would also get 1 because that's symmetric. So we're going to graph those points. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We'll go off the grid for this one. 0, 1, 2.5, 2.5, up 13.5, there, and over 5, 1. For our graph, making sure it looks like the U. It is very hard to make my line exactly where I want it to be on these graphs. I apologize for that. So we're going to try that again. Okay. So there's our parabola. It says find the maximum or minimum. Okay, my graph is opening down, so I know that I have a maximum. at the y value of my vertex, which was 13.5 or 54/4, whatever you wanted to call it. Okay. So let's do some more of those. So number 2, y equals negative 3x squared minus 9x plus 7. Again, I want to put it in vertex form, so I need to move that 7 to the other side. So I'm going to have y minus 7 equals negative 3x squared minus 9x. Y minus 7, okay, plus, now I'm going to have something here, right, equals, on this side I have to take the negative 3 out, and I get x squared plus 3x plus my blank. So over here, I know it's going to be negative 3 times whatever I'm adding to both sides. So what am I adding to both sides? 3 divided by 2 squared. So that's going to be 9/4. So we're adding 9/4 to both sides. So right now I have y minus 7 plus negative 3 times 9, negative 27/4. Equals negative 3. I can factor this side now. X plus 3/2 quantity squared. Common denominator, so put 7 over 4, so that's really negative 28/4. So y, so I have negative 28/4 and a negative 27/4, which gives me a negative 55/4 equals negative 3 parentheses x plus 3/2 quantity squared. So to put in vertex form, just move my 55/4 over. So I get y equals negative 3 x plus 3/2 quantity squared plus 55/4. My vertex is negative 3/2, because remember it always comes out of parentheses opposite, comma 55/4. Or if I don't like that, I want to know what is it in decimal or fraction, mixed number, I could say that's negative 1.5. 55/4 becomes 13 3/4. Make my XY table. So at negative 1.5, I'm at 13 3/4. So I want to go bigger than negative 1.5. That gets me 0. If I plug 0 into my original equation, I'm at 7. I had to go 1.5 spaces to get to 0, so I have to go 1.5 spaces the opposite direction. So negative 1.5 minus 1.5 puts me at negative 3, is also going to be at 7. All right, so let's go ahead, since we have to go up to 13 3/4 again, let's do our y's by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay. So negative 1.5 up 13.5, so not quite my 14. 0, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7, negative 3, about 7. Draw our parabola. And again, identify the max or min. Again, it opens down, so it's a max at 55/4 or 13 3/4. All right, let's do one more of those. Y equals 2x squared plus 12x plus 9. Again, I cannot factor that as it is into a perfect square trinomial, so I need to move my 9 to the other side. So I get y minus 9 equals 2x squared plus 12x. Y minus 9 plus, I'm going to put my blank over here, equals, pull out the GCF, so the 2, and I'm left with x squared plus 6x plus a blank. So now over here on the left-hand side, I know whatever I'm adding to both sides, I'm also going to multiply it by 2 on the left-hand side. So here, 6 divided by 2 squared. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. I know that breaks your heart that this time we're actually adding a whole number instead of a fraction. So now I have y minus 9 plus 18 equals 2. This side can factor, x plus 3 quantity squared. So now over here I have y plus 9 equals 2x plus 3 quantity squared. Move my 9 over, so vertex form, y equals 2x plus 3 quantity squared minus 9. My vertex is negative 3, negative 9. This parabola opens up, so I have a minimum at negative 9. I can make my xy table. So my vertex, negative 3, negative 9. Again, I'm going to, the number that I'm going to pick bigger than negative 3 is 0. plug 0 into the original equation, I'm at 9. I'd go 3 spaces to get there, so go 3 spaces the opposite direction. It's me at negative 6 and 9. So plot those points. So 0 up 9. Right there. Negative 6. Also up 9. Negative 3. Down 9. Right there. Draw the parabola U shape. And there we have it. Day 2 of completing the square. We find it handy to complete the square in order to write a quadratic equation in vertex form, which makes us easily identify the vertex in any max and mins.